Know where your money's going and what it's doing. Know your money. And then mindset, understanding like the discipline and how to build habits and how to work through that, and then bringing that into relationships.
Hey, everybody. Really appreciate you coming back to listen to In Pursuit of Better. This week, we're talking to Brock Zevan. He's a coach and a speaker, a real estate agent. But what's really cool about him is his story of overcoming some challenges in his life and then how he made that into a successful career, inspiring and helping to lead other people through his businesses and through his coaching and speaking engagements. So I know we're going to get a lot of cool things out of his story and what he's got going on. So remember to like, subscribe wherever you watch or listen. And let's jump into the conversation with Brock. Well, and that's, I mean, one of the main things I kind of wanted to dive in with you was just how you started to put yourself out there, right? Because I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but I'd like to hear more about how you went from just doing work itself to then kind of this branding thing and coaching.
hmm Well, just like anything, it takes time and confidence of within myself and believing in myself. I mean, I wasn't exposing too much in the beginning. And so I was typically, the first couple months when I went through my addiction and going into AA, I wanted to tell everybody like the first 3 months, like, hey, I stopped drinking. Look at me. And my sponsor was like, and I'm not going to tell you the profanity, but there was some aggressive words used, being like, you don't get to share anything yet, man. Like
Mm.
you haven't done a single thing yet. You just are starting to become a normal husband, a normal father, a normal human being. Your actions have to be a lot longer than you get to broadcast that. So I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of humbled me. It humbled me and brought me back down, like, man. And I use that many times in AA and to people, and to share with them, like, you got to get a year under your belt before you can start saying things. So you get to that year, and then embarrassment starts taking place because you realized how bad of a person you were. And for me specifically, I wasn't a good person, and I wasn't happy what I've done. And I've been in step 6 of the program. I had to go through a lot of reconciling and talking to people and apologizing to people. So embarrassment took place. So that sat with me for another year of going through that and having to eat humble pie and put my foot in my mouth, and that brought me back down again. And then when you get to year 2, like reality sits in, and it's like, damn, I can't drink for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know, like, can I do this? And you start second guessing yourself. So in the beginning of my tenure of the sixth, because November 1st was my 6 years, like I was a mess. Like I'm just trying to find myself. Emotions are coming in. Like I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to handle anger because I masked it with drinking all the time. So I was going through my own self, and I'm a very big strong believer, and that's part of some of the stuff I coach now, is like you have to understand yourself before you can start understanding other people. And I didn't understand myself. I didn't know what triggered me to do certain things. So I had to go through that whole learning curve. So it was about probably more towards year 3 when somebody asked me a little bit more of my story. My second year into the AA program, somebody asked me to speak. And so it's easy to speak when you're in a homogeneous setting, because like everybody gets you. Oh man, I got you, man. I've been there, done that. I understand that. But when you have to speak and go into a heterogeneous setting where there's like other people who look at you differently, and kind of like, oh man, that guy can't control his drinking. What's wrong with him? There's that stereotype. And I carried that with me, that dark umbrella with me, and I wasn't too sure how I wanted to portray it to the public because I was still a little fragile inside and I was still working on myself. And so I spoke at uh, I don't even it's called Feed NC down here in Charlotte, and it was Feed NC Mooresville, and it's family education discovery. I forgot what the I should know my acronyms, but I don't know what it was. But For the most part, they asked me to speak because they had some people that were in the addiction field, and I said, okay, I will do it. And I still wasn't going to speak by myself, so I had to get a buddy of mine who does a podcast, and I was on several of his podcasts, and I was like, hey, you might be a very good MC for me because I need somebody to set me up to ask the questions because I feel like I could go anywhere. Because when your brain is all over the place and you have so many different emotions, you kind of like get a little nervous. I remember saying my vows at my wedding, like, it's an emotional time period. Everybody's staring at you. So I knew that that's how I would feel. So I always learned because I was a football coach how to set myself up for the stage. Like, okay, when the spotlight's on, how are you going to react? And so I tried to set up as much as I could so I know the questions. And so Greg helped me set me up to be my first time actually sharing my story. My parents were there, so that was a little bit more challenging. My mom cried, and so that like was very emotional to me. And just like I said, when emotion starts hitting, it's like, wow, where am I going to go with this? And so because she didn't know a lot about my deep dark secrets. And so I started expressing it, and then I started seeing emotion in people, and many people came up to me. And so I felt like, wow, I'm impacting people. And that literally was the trigger that started me to build up off of that was I was helping people. I drew in emotion, and then my spiritualness started coming into play, and that really started to take place, a little bit about 3 years ago. And then I started to orchestrate it more and then craft it in a way that depending on my audience and where I'm at to do. And so that's kind of where it started with me.
Do you think that going through, I guess this is multifactorial, but going through, your addiction, but then also AA seems like it has a lot of really cool principles that help people in any walk of life. Did both of those things make it so that you're more relatable to people, or how did it impact you, like coaching and helping others, I guess?
Well, AA played a part because I felt like an outsider. And you first have to start feeling like comfortable within your own skin. So AA made me feel comfortable that like I wasn't a weirdo.
Mm.
I just said it recently. I think every aspect of our lives, depending on what scale we're at. So some of the coaching programs I'm in now, like sometimes I feel weird the way my work ethic is and what I think and my visions and my dreams and everything else. And so like when I tell people what I'm thinking, people think I'm kind of weird. So until I get myself in the same room with the same type of like-minded people, I think you walk around in life like in a daze or not too sure where you want to grow or where you want to go. And so when I was in AA, I found the rooms that made me feel comfortable. And then once I had comfortable, confidence came into play. And then once my confidence came into play, then I was able to take what my previous existing skills were, and that's on the football field, that's in the coaching, that's in front of classrooms, where I already felt confident in there, but I wasn't confident in what I was speaking. And so once I started to build confidence in what I was speaking and what I was engaging in the right rooms, then I was like, I can do this because I already have a pre-existing skill set to be able to do it. And I put it into my own personality. And that's how I feel I'm able to do today. What I do today is because now I'm taking what I've learned and now bringing it into a higher level and doing podcasts and coaching and speaking engagements across the country. This allows me to do that but you got to get in the right rooms first. You got to get comfortable with yourself and you got to believe what you're saying in yourself because my job really isn't anymore is I need to make people feel that I believe in myself because you'd be able to tell in a second, like, okay, that person's fake. They're just
Mhm.
talking right through their lips. So I have to make people feel, not make them, like it's just through empathy. It's through conversations like these. Like, man, he's pretty real about what he says.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the things that make people listen to you and enjoy what you're saying. When you say you felt weird, was it because do you think it's like you were too ambitious, or how did people respond that made you feel like that to your thoughts or to your goals?
Well, because I live outside my comfort zone. I live outside like where people stay in a reserve area where like, well, how can you possibly do that? Like that doesn't make sense to me because we all have limiting beliefs. And so I've learned to remove my limiting belief cap. And so when you start talking to other people who have that cap on a limiting belief, then they look at you a little bit differently. Man, that guy's a little bit outside the box. Like he wants to do this and do this. And like he he can't even get himself out of this. Like, how can he help me with money when he has IRS debt out of the wazoo? Like he was going to go to jail. Like, because people will only remember what you last told them. So if I tell them I was in IRS debt, they remember that I'm always in IRS debt. They don't remember like you can actually get out of it. But because we stay in a sticky position where we just stay inside of our comfort zone, we just say like, oh, that's all he is. And so that's all we know him as. TD Jakes has a really good saying is when you meet somebody, you're on the same step. And you typically don't meet that person again until like the holidays, which is a year later, or typically time period comes. And most people stay on the same step. So they stay in constant, like their conversation stays the same. And it might sound like something like this. Hey, Jordan, how have you been doing? Pretty good. Same old, work, life, kids, balancing both. Oh man, yeah, I hear you. But when you grow, you go up a couple steps. And when you go up a couple steps, you're not looking eye to eye anymore. You're looking up. And people don't like to look up. And so when they look up, they feel like you're talking down to them, which you're not, but that's how they feel. And so when you have the conversation, you say, hey, how have you been doing? Well, things have been really good. I've escalated my business. I've started to travel. I do this. We bought this. I go here. I've enjoyed my church group. I've done this. And they're like, damn, I haven't done any of that stuff. Boy, he made me feel really small, which I didn't. It's just they stayed in the same spot and we grew. And so that's how I've been able to kind of getting myself in like-minded rooms. Why I always tell people you have to get around like-minded people for where you want to grow. And then you want to make sure there's some people in the room who are above you, whatever you want to classify that as. But that's your mentor. That's your coach. That's your person that's going to take you to where you want to go.
So do you think that, I'm trying to, are people uncomfortable in those conversations? You said that like, people don't like to feel like they're, below somebody or something like that. How do you reach those people? Or is that the importance of just getting in those like-minded groups? Like, you can still be empathetic, right? But you don't necessarily want those thoughts, those negative, emotions that go along with like someone else succeeding to bring you down. Like, so how do you balance that?
Well, I think that's just checking your ego and having that humble pie. I do is like I'm not any different than anybody else. I think that's what makes me relatable is like, man, he's actually this person.
Mhm.
I just do what I say I'm going to do. That's the biggest thing in the discipline of building that up. I get up at a certain time. I get up early. I do my routine. I own the morning and I literally do it every single day. And I don't like to talk down. I don't judge a book by its cover. I judged people for so long in my drinking days that I thought my narcissistic train of thought. I tell people many times, my drinking has changed, my thinking has not. I've learned how to control my thinking this time around because I have clarity. If I was drinking, I would still be the jackass I'm not still somebody the other day, like I'm still not the very best person. I just make better decisions. You only like I have a dark side to me. In the book Relentless by Tim Grover, he classified people as in coolers, closers, and cleaners. And I've learned that I'm classified as a cleaner. A cleaner still has a dark side, a Kobe Bryant, a Michael Jordan, these elite, these successful people, like they have a dark side. What we did was we classify to be able to motivate and use our dark side to be able to escalate ourselves where we're not talking down as we're bringing people up. And if you feel like you're part of us and you want to be like-minded, I tell people all the time, come live with me for a week and tell me how you think you're going to feel at the end of that week. Hopefully you feel tired and exhausted and productive. Like, damn, that guy's got to go. Like, whew, it is pretty intense over there. And just like when I go to my coach, He's building buildings. He's building coaching platforms. I'm like, holy smokes, this guy's like nonstop. And somebody might think I'm not stop because it's all about perception how you make people feel. I don't want to make people feel like they're any lower. Like I tell people all the time, you're a partner with me. You don't work for me. We are partners together. We are just at different levels of our time periods of our life. If you want to get to my point of my life, then you could do that. You just didn't start at the same time I did, and vice versa. I didn't start at the same time my coach did, but you can get there, and I want to help you. So I always want to come from a helping mindset because people have helped me. And when you ask successful people, I'm sure you had different people on your show, and you ask people, I'm sure successful people have never said, no, Jordan, I'm not going to speak on your show. I'm too good for this. Like, no, they don't. They want to help other people.
Yeah, or I mean, some just ignore it, I guess, but that they may be too busy or whatever. But no, they're not going to come out and say, I'm too good.
Right. That's their script, is if they found
Yeah.
out, like, if I just don't answer him, I don't have to deal with him.
Right.
And that's just their ego getting in their way, thinking they're too good. At
For
least
sure.
from my own perception.
For sure. Do you think that was it that like was it going through AA or what? Like, I guess what was the catalyst to make you want to get sober? Was it, did you hit a bottom, or was it, you have family, kids, and you wanted to achieve more? I'm always curious at what that
Right.
catalyst was for people.
I knew I was going down a very slippery slope. My marriage was already in check. But I was lying all the time, constantly lying. I remember going into there's a local shopping center around here, and I couldn't even walk around because I didn't know who I was with the night before or what story I created or what I concocted. And here I am walking around with my kid and my wife at the time, and I don't know like who might bump into me, be like, "Hey man, great time last night." And I told my wife that I was working. Like I just got tired of living that life of a lie, and I knew eventually it was going to catch up. My like I said, my marriage was already on the decline. Financially, we were like I was struggling. On the outside, it might look like we were living in this blissful world, but it was just I just knew the writing on the wall. It was getting deeper and deeper, and I tell people all the time, I'm the worst addict to be around because, and I say this not in an arrogant way, but I'm smart. I grew up with a family that was caring. I went to college. I got my master's. So like I'm intelligent enough to know right from wrong. I'm intelligent enough to know how to manipulate. And I had money. So I had power. And so when you have that, you can create situations and do different things. It's the people who are really broke and they're stealing and they're doing all the negativity to get what they want. I was able to do it in my own means and manipulate and get things in a very for self-centered, selfish reasons. And so I was not a good person at all to anybody because I knew what to say to get around things. And I just didn't want that to be for my kids. And I didn't want to, at the time, it was just Brielle. I didn't even have Bryce. And so I had a calling to moment on September 7th, 2016. And I called my brother-in-law and I said, I think I need to get some help. I've asked for help. I was in different type of counseling sessions, but I had to realize it for myself. And as they say, until you want it, it doesn't matter. And so I decided on September 7th, and I fought it for a while because excuse me, I officially didn't really bite the bullet because then I fell off the wagon a couple times between then and then on Halloween 2016. That was the last time I said I drank on Halloween in November 1st when I was like, all right, you got to be more committed. And for whatever rhyme or reason, the commitment started that day where I said you're going to work on your sobriety every single day. And so that's when it took place for me. So eventually I would have I thought of suicide. I wanted to run into trees. I thought that was gonna be easier. I planned it out with the car and like where to go, like all these things, these dark sides inside your head, took place. It was just a matter of time till I would be officially divorced, not having, any more kids, and the house would be, falling apart or, foreclosed on. I mean, it's typically the writing on the wall when you see it. And I was smart enough to be like, okay, you're going to have to do something.
That's awesome. At least you were able to recognize it before it got worse, right? And how, you kind of talked about our emotions and getting control of those things. And I think as men, a lot of times we're taught to kind of suppress those things and hold them within. So how were you able to, kind of start to recognize and learn about yourself and those emotions and kind of work through them? Was it talking it out with maybe your sponsor, or what was it for you that kind of helped get control of those things?
You're 100% correct. Men think that vulnerability and emotions a weakness. And that's just part of my ego problem. Like I just was like, oh, I can't cry in front of people. I can't be vulnerable in front of people. And I didn't for quite some time because I hid it all in there. I was like, I'm going to fight through this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this thing happen. And so, they call it white knuckle. Like when you squeeze your hand so hard, your knuckles become white. And I did that for quite some time because I was just so like that competitiveness inside of me, and that ego, I couldn't like swallow it. And, so I fought it for a long period of time. It was just one of those things as a male. I was like, I'm going to win it. I'm a fix it type of person. I study personalities. So I'm a driver in the disc personality. So I was a D, where like, I'm going to fight my way through this. And I did it until emotionally at one coaching moment, I lost it with my talking about my kids. And I cried. And it was the weirdest thing in the world because I was in front of people, but I had more people approach me and say, man, that was one of your best speeches. And I was like, what? I cried. Like, here I am being defensive on it. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional. They're like, no, that's what made you feel real. And I didn't do it on purpose. And when it started to kind of come back to me, I was just like, wow, okay. And so I started to be a little bit more emotional, wear my emotions on my sleeve, and vulnerability started to take place. And then the aspect of spiritualness started to come into my life about 2 years ago. And then that took it to a different level because I thought I was on the right path. And then like when I brought spiritualness into me, like, wow, that really started even compounded at a much higher level. And it just when you feel good, kind of like when you're drinking and you're taking the drug to make you feel good, I was finding it on a natural level, and that utopia started to take shape, and I became addicted to that feeling. And so when I tell people, the addiction personality will not leave us. You just get to control where you put it to. And I was controlling it to all the wrong things. And when I started to controlling it to all the right things, that put me in a better position, the compound effect, the 1% every day, one more, do one more, then my life started to transfer and started to change. And then the spiritualness just made it abundant.
One of the things that I think is most inspiring about you is that dedication to do stuff every day, like whether it be that, your motivational morning thing. What drives that? Or is that something you always had, or is it kind of going through these changes that made you make a more cognizant effort to be, disciplined? It's not, necessarily motivation gets us so far, but it's the discipline to actually do it every day. So did you always have that?
No, I had zero discipline. I was disciplined into drinking every day. I was really good at that.
Right.
So, and when you kind of said that, and that's why I like Zoom, is because when you kind of shrug your shoulders, to me, it's like, but I had to take the smallest little thing. And I think people in society forget how to do this because I knew I was disciplined. I could drink every day. It didn't matter what took place. I could drink every day. So I recognized I was disciplined for the wrong actions. So it wasn't that the discipline wasn't there, where most people are like, well, I don't have the discipline. You do. You are just not filtering it the same way that I've learned how to filter it. And if I could teach you and coach you how to filter it, like you brush your teeth every day, you take a shower every day, you go to the bathroom every day, you eat every day, you put your plate and utensils at some point away. So at some point you can find discipline. Atomic Habits by James Clear showed me how to build discipline at a faster pace and how to build better habits. But for the most part, we all have a discipline. So once I recognize, like, okay, I drink every day now, how can I take this discipline and put it into something good? Where can I go with this? And so the motivation mindset call really started about 5 or 6 years ago when my coach, Jeff Glover, did a morning call, and it was about real estate on your numbers, your accountability. It was called an accountability call. And so that's how it all started. And at one point it changed times from 7:15 to 7:30. And it varied based off of, what was going on in my life with my kids. But I always do it in the team would call. It was a team call only. It was a private team call. And I would go around and say, okay, how many calls did you make? How many numbers did you dial? What was your, did you call FISBOs? Did you call expires? Did you get a listing? Did you go under contract? And we had like 10 numbers. And they would tell me their 10 numbers. And then I would just go around the call and I would say your name. Well, then it started elevating to, I went to a conference and a guy said, I start each call with a prayer or motivation. So then I started a motivation, and then we did our numbers. And then it really escalated, and then it de-escalated because I lost people on the team. COVID happened. I had 18 people on my team, and then things started to go fall apart. And then at one point it was just me and my buddy Mike Kastner. It was just me and another person. And I said, Mike, I hope you don't mind, but I still like to do it because it's been a routine. You and I can just talk. And literally, I remember it to that T. It would just be like, all right, Mike, what do you got? What's going on? What do you have for your day? We just talk about our day. And to today, to think about where it is, where now it's streamed on Facebook on two different channels, and we have Zoom, and it's like we have different themes and different people speak on it. And to think back to where it started was the discipline of just doing it every day from an accountability call aspect. And so I think when you have that discipline, the compound, it grows. And I'm just very relentless. Like I just don't let it go. And I think that's an important figure of what it is. It's just like I wish I can give you a measurable to tell you, well, this is exactly how it is. Like, but at 4:35, my alarm goes off. And I actually have a doctor's appointment. That's why I told you I had to change my podcast. I've been sick for 7 days. And I've been doing podcasts. I've been doing coaching. My fever broke on one of the podcasts that I did. People ask me, like, how do you keep doing this? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just something is built into me. Like, I don't feel good, but I'm not going to cancel. I'll reschedule, but I will get through the day. And I was telling somebody today because she was asking me, I thought you had a doctor's appointment and you're still doing the live calls. I said, well, yeah, it's on my schedule today. I said, that's just what I do. But at 5 o'clock, my significant other, Wendy, unfortunately, she has to deal with sick Brock. Like, I get sick. I fell asleep yesterday at 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock. I got up for an hour to do a couple things. I still have here, I'm working on, I did 37 Christmas cards between 7 and 8 o'clock last night because I had enough energy to do that. I haven't eaten in over a day, but I'm like, I don't know. It just, my brain only knows, like when you talk to the elite of the elite, they just say, figure it out. You just get through it. I have pictures of my kids above me here, just like you have your kids. Like they do something to you where people don't understand until you have kids. I can't explain it to you. And until you have that mindset where like, I don't give a you know what, I'm going to get it done somehow, some way. I do it. And I listened to the Art Williams Just Do It speech. It's a 2 minutes and 42 seconds. You just do it. And so I wish I could give you better like specifics, but that's literally how I've motivated myself.
No, I think that's really impactful. And I guess the question is, does it get easier? Because it seems like no, like you're always going to have things that happen. How do you like? I think it'd be easy, not easy, but it's one thing to work or do whatever when you're sick or you just don't feel like it. But how do you stay motivated or disciplined when let's say your morning call goes down to just you and one other person, like,
Mhm.
and you still do it every day? So how do the people that find success are the ones that, like you say, just continue to do it. But how do you stay motivated whenever it doesn't look like anybody, you're just talking into a void? It's, you know what I mean?
Mm. So one is failure. You fail often, but failure is not an option. So like I won't let I know it, like it's gonna sound narcissistic, but like I know I have haters.
Mhm.
There's people out there who are waiting for me to fail. I know that they're just waiting because it's happened in my life. Like I thought I would have people send me pictures like I think Brock's drinking, and they would send it to my ex-wife and be like, I think he's drinking here. And people would put stuff on Facebook. Like I ran for the president of my HOA, and it was I guess you would say a luxury neighborhood we lived in. It was $500,000 house, and you had these large. It was 1,000 people, 1,000 homes in here, and I ran for the president of the HOA. I had people pulling up my lawsuit of my what happened to me and posting on Facebook, like, look what type of guy this person is. I saw him at AA. He's a drunk. He's an alcoholic. Like there were people, the more you succeed, the more haters will try to bring you down. And that's what gets me fired up. That's what gets me going because I'm like, you're not going to get me because I'm so driven to be able to get to my goal for where I want to go. And now that I have kids, like I'm even working now for my grandkids. I'm blessed to be and fortunate to say my kids will have in reason whatever they want. They will go wherever, they will do whatever within reason. I will make sure that they have that. And now it's working for my grandkids. So that way when my kids can say, it was your grandpa that this is why we have this today. He was the one, he worked really hard. Here's his story. Here's his legacy he leaves behind. Eric Thomas, one of the motivational speakers, talks about it. Les Brown talks about what are you leaving behind? What is your legacy? I mean, being a father, you get it. And so it's easy to talk to you because you understand. And I would also use the analogy that many times people like you work out. Okay. And I remember the first time when we were working out and we got to that weight and we did 130, our goal was to do one plate and we got to 135 pounds. Did we stop? No.
No,
We're
yeah.
like, I'm going to do, I think I could do more. And then it becomes how many times can I lift it? And then it comes how much weight can I do? And then we ask questions to our pals and our buddies. Hey, what's your max? And then that competitive spirit comes into play all the same time period for it. It started when we thought about lifting weights. And then the actions when we get into the gym. And then the emotion comes in when somebody's there spotting you and then you get it and you reach your goal. And I promise you, and I know you would agree with me, that we're not satisfied when we hit it. We're just like, okay, what's next? And that's how I've learned to be able to take my goals and my visions. It's like, okay, I did it. What's next? What can I do next? So that hunger, my coach always says it, go to bed tired and wake up hungry.
I've never related it back to working out. That was really cool because you're right. Like you can, if you set a business or a financial goal, just because you reach it doesn't mean then you just quit.
Yeah, you're not like, okay, I did
Yeah,
it. I'm
that's
going to go back to like, I'm going to lower the weights now.
yeah. Or just stop. I'm gonna stop going to the gym now that I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what can I do? And as the older we get, I'm not trying to be the like my goal now is to not is to be like, oh, he's a dad. Like, wow, he's in good shape for a dad.
Mhm.
Like that's like I'm not trying to bench press, 275 pounds. Like I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to bench press 225 as much as I can when I played football. It's literally to stay in shape so that way I could be like when Bryce is 3. I mean, he's 4 years old. In 10 years, I got to wait another 10 years. I'll be 54. And he says, Hey, Dad, my buddies and I are playing basketball. Oh, wait, you can't play, Dad. You're too old. Oh, you better believe I'm going to play. What time are you going to be there? I'll be there. And I want to be able to compete. Now, I might not be able to run and jump and do whatever, but I want to be like, man, your dad's still in good shape. I want to be like him when I'm his age. Like, you got to find you grow into different motivations.
Yeah, no, that's like my only motivation physically now is like I just want to be whenever he's exactly like that in high school, like,
Yeah.
dang, you can still do this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Well, so what are the goals you have outside of the like for your business, for your coaching, for your speaking? What do those goals look like for you going forward?
So one of my close to home goals is I want to work with couples and singles, people who are just got divorced, just got separated. I think it's a very challenging time period for many people. And divorce and separations aren't going to go away. And many people have no clue what to do. Like, oh my gosh, my significant other just told me he was cheating on me, or he doesn't want to be with me, or she doesn't want to be with me. And I've heard many stories as the reticular activator comes into play, and the law of attraction happens, where people are like, Brock, I just learned this, and I don't know, like they just told me they don't want to have the kids anymore. And I talked to a really great guy, successful guy down in Dallas, James Sharp, and he has a charity called Sharp Shoes. And his wife, his former wife, says she doesn't want the kids anymore, and they're all under the ages of 6. He has 3 of them. On
Mm.
Christmas Eve, he's been raising 3 kids since then. And I remember his story of figuring it out. And so there's many people, and I think in this world, who are struggling in either a relationship. So couples relationship, and I've studied the 5 love languages to help people. So I want to grow into the couple relations, and I also want to grow into helping single people navigate through this uniqueness of what they're going through, but knowing that, especially if they have kids, the children in mind, and especially fathers, because I think dads get a bad rap because a deadbeat dad, he's not paying child support, he left us. Like, it's not fair. Like, we're not all that way. Like, I'm living proof. Like, I pay a very hefty amount of child support and alimony. Well, we blended it in, so I'm not going to be called out on it. Like, but like when I ran the numbers, it's above what I should be paying because there was some guilt involved with it. I'm not going to deny that, but I made sure I paid it every single time. I made sure I did what I do. I made sure went through the process. Now, was it simple? No. Did we get in fights? Yes. But that's just what happens. Like, that's the real world of what you got to do. But you got to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're taking care of your kids, and you're taking care and you're paying your bills, and you're doing with it. It was a decision you and your former wife made. You got to do it. So as far as like personally and where I want to help, that for sure is one of my categories. Benevolence with helping children hunger. I can't stand kids who are hungry. I want to make sure that our youth have food, especially in my community and my home area here. So that's some of my why and my motivation. As far as my coaching, I run a Power Players program. Another program that's been very successful is my Foundations of Financing. I think 2 biggest issues in people's lives are money and mindset. They don't know how to manage their money. They don't know they don't know what their money is. I say you got to know your money. That's our first series, is know where your money's going and what it's doing. Know your money. And then mindset, understanding like the discipline and how to build habits and how to work through that, and then bringing that into relationships. So my Foundations of Finances is a class, my one-on-one coaching, and then just going and doing my webinars and helping entrepreneurs and inspiring people and motivating people across the country. And so being able to get more exposure is one of my biggest goals. How to be not the best kept secret is my theme for 2023. So it's just that whole marketing thing and getting yourself out there and talking to as many people as you can, and having more opportunities to be on podcasts and exposures and coaching and teams, etc.
Yeah, I always struggle, and I'm sure you did too when you first started. It's like it's weird to ask for the attention, but that's really the only way that you can then help people is if people know that you're even doing it.
Well, I had to train my brain that the attention is to help people, not for me. It
Mm.
sounds like it's for me,
Yeah.
but I feel like I have a voice, and I feel like I have a gift, and I feel like I have something to help other people, because if I didn't, And if I was just talking and just to hearing words and to hear loud air coming out of my breath, I wouldn't have the people who reach out. I wouldn't have the people on my morning calls on the morning show each morning, and to be able to be like, hey, he's got something. I need to dive in a little bit deeper with him. And so my strategy calls, these type of things to help people get through it. And so I changed the way I think about it. It's like I'm helping people by sharing my story.
Yeah, and I mean, and you have a lot of content out there, because like you said, that morning show goes live on Facebook. Where's the best place for people to see that? Not only that, but just to see you and what you're doing.
A lot of it is on YouTube now.
Oh,
So my
okay.
YouTube channel has built up quite a bit, but I would also recommend people go to the Brock Zevan's Mindset Morning Show. It is a private Facebook page, so you can go into that. I could share with you some of the links for those that are viewers that are watching, but it is a private Facebook page. So then that way you get all my information, you get all my coaching stuff. So when you're part of that page, you get part of me and my coaching programs. I do a lot of social media stuff, different ways to increase your social media, YouTube channels, all that stuff. But all my previous stuff is on my YouTube channel, Brock Zevan. And then you can go to bz3enterprises.com, has all my different coaching platforms.
Brock, I appreciate your time. I know that you have a doctor's appointment to get to. But I think that I could, dive into a bunch of different topics with you. You're very cool to talk to and to learn from. And I just appreciate you sharing not only this, but, the conversations we've had previously.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity. And if I can help out in any way and to come back again, I appreciate
Yeah.
you and you reaching out. I proactiveness, and I wish you all the success. And you ask good questions. They're thought out questions. I've been on some podcasts where I'm like, that's like a one word answer, and I have to elaborate a little bit more to kind of keep it going. So I appreciate this opportunity. And if there's something you want me to help coach or teach or dive into on any level, spiritual
Okay.
level, personality level, relationship level, kids, feel free. I'd be more than happy to come back again and do this. I appreciate you, Jordan.
No, we'll definitely have you back. Cause yeah, all those are areas where I'm like, we're all learning, we can all grow.
Mm-hmm.
So to have somebody kind of, I don't know, you can get something from everybody. Everybody's story has something you can apply to your life. And I think that's what's cool. And that's what's motivating me to just keep doing it.